shipwreck. Brew and a friend bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DDNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR, and we are live from Studio A. The A stands for average per year value.
You read my tweets this morning. Nice.
We'll be getting into that. Of course, 2 new contracts to discuss for the Denver Broncos since the last time we sat here, Mace. But before we jump into all that, we got to go to a place that can teach you all about, contracts and math and all that other stuff and finances. It's MSU Denver. Now, that's not all they can teach you about. They can teach you about a whole hell of a lot more. Whatever you're looking to learn about, MSU Denver is the place to go, especially if you're looking to maintain a full-time job while you do that, because MSU Denver students work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution. But Mace, we got ourselves a doozy of a weekend in Broncos country.
Yeah, so much for the bye being a quiet weekend. Although happening today, as we'll get into Courtland Sutton breaking this morning, I can live with that because you fly back Sunday night from wherever you are for the bye. Monday you're back in. It's back to normal. Hit the ground running. I just wish Tim Patrick had been announced today rather than on Friday, because I'm trying to unplug a little bit here. And God, can't do it. Can't do it.
It happens.
Yes.
It happens. Unfortunately, they don't work on our schedule.
You have to be prepared for something Broncos related to happen on their bye every year.
Well, you have to be prepared for Broncos news to break at all times.
Right. But I remember the most dramatic one was back in 2013, John Fox falling ill on the golf course in Charlotte and having to undergo surgery.
Right, and that's a big one.
That was kind of, in terms of something happening over the bye, that's the all-timer right there, and thankfully he was okay.
Worst one for me was waking up at, I believe, 6:30 a.m. on New Year's Day to the news that Gary Kubiak was stepping down.
Oh, yes.
And I had a nice little hangover going on, and had to peel myself off the pillow to get that. Okay, the news today, of course. Well, the news this weekend, of course, starts with Tim Patrick, who signs a 3-year, $30 million extension. Mace, I'm gonna ask something tough of you, but give me your reaction to this without talking about the quarterback, because that's going to be our next topic, all about what this means for the quarterback. Just your non-quarterback reaction.
Rewarding a diligent player who you've developed. Rewarding, for example, talk about diligent, talk about hustling, hardworking, all that. It's interesting to me that, and I don't think there's any connection to it, but 5 days after he's a guy trying to chase down Darius Slay, the last guy that had a chance, the last guy chasing him, that he signs the deal. That's what you expect from Tim Patrick. He is all hard work, all hustle. He maybe doesn't have the same physical gifts as a lot of his contemporaries, but he maximizes them all better. I mean, it's the cliche, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Tim Patrick is hard work. Tim Patrick is taking those dozens to hundreds of balls from Mark Thews every day after practice because he wants to remedy the early drop woes that he had in his career, and the result is a guy that literally the last 2 years hasn't fumbled, hasn't dropped a pass.
Touch wood.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is one of those feel-good contracts for everyone on the team, because you can tell anyone about this, right?
Yes.
And it'll inspire them. And really, it goes into your team. I actually ran into a Bronco this weekend, who was an undrafted guy, has been bouncing around from practice squad to practice squad, and he was just telling me that's so inspiring. That's the dream, right? That's what gets you out there grinding, going through those times where you're not on a team, you're waiting for your phone to ring, all of that stuff. And so this is one that everyone can get behind. It's a good price for the Broncos. And, you mentioned the physical gifts. I think his physical gifts are underrated. This is a guy who ran 4.47 at his pro day. He obviously wasn't invited to the combine, so we can only go off the pro day numbers. He's big. He's fast. He's not quite as strong as a Courtland Sutton, but he is a gifted guy.
Yeah, there's somebody on the Broncos roster at receiver who has a better skill than he has. Maybe you'd say with Tim Patrick that he's like the second or third best in everything, but there's no weak spot on him.
Right.
He's second or third best in everything except you could say hands.
Right.
Hands have to be number one.
Totally.
Everything else is like number two, number three. Okay, you say KJ's
the
faster, and then Jerry Judy's probably a little bit faster, and then Courtland Sutton's bigger, got a better catch radius, etc., and a little better at jump balls. But across the board, Tim Patrick, there's no weak spot to him.
Nope.
Not at all. There's nothing where you say, oh, well, that's his Achilles heel. It doesn't exist for him.
All right. We're going to have plenty more time to talk about Tim,
Right.
but let's get to the other news. Of course, today, Cortland Sutton, 4 years, $60 million to come back to the Broncos and extend him through at least 2025.
Right. 34.9 guaranteed, 60.8 total. So basically, if you're going to do an average per year value, it's 15.2. Also, I mean, if you front load the guarantees effectively, it can kind of be a 2-year contract. Maybe I think when they kind of do the final accounting, we'll learn the per year breakdown here probably over the next couple of weeks. But probably it's effectively going to be a 3-year deal, I'd imagine, in the end, which is perfectly fair. Gives him a chance for another big score. Also gives him some security. Courtland, even though Tim Patrick, the career arc is a little bit like Chris Harris Jr., undrafted guy, having to stick. And, of course, Chris got the big deal late in his 4th season, kind of like Tim Patrick did. Sutton's re-signing reminds me of Chris Harris Jr. in that you're re-signing a guy who had an ACL the year before, has come back from that to be, if not 100% of what he was, reasonably close to that. And as a result, I think you're getting him on a little bit of a discount because you're offering kind of that security for a player who has kind of stared career mortality in the face.
Absolutely. My first reaction to this was, I think that's the floor for what this contract could have been.
Oh my gosh, I thought the floor was 17.
Yeah, exactly.
When I saw that number, when I looked at 60.8, and I'm like, okay, that's 15.2 a year. That's a steal. That's, as of the contracts today, which include a couple of franchise tag guys, that's 16th. That's right behind Cooper Kupp, right ahead of Jarvis Landry.
And that feels like perfect. Now, Cooper Kupp is outperforming that contract.
Right, but Landry I mean, he signed that a few years ago, right? And you're getting Courtland Sutton, who probably, they're not the same type of receiver, but certainly in terms of performance are relatively in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
You're getting him for value that you would have expected to get a receiver for 4 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you could even go find a clip of us talking about this where I said 15 is the cheapest you're going to possibly be able to get that deal. And so now you combine Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton, and when you rank that in terms of average per year salary, it's right in the mix of the most expensive receivers. It's a little bit below DeAndre Hopkins, a little bit above Julio Jones. You're getting 2 guys for the price of one of those top tier guys.
And then you have Jerry Jeudy on his rookie contract for another 2 years, and then cost control beyond that for 1 more year on the 5th year option. And that's kind of, you're looking at these deals, and you look at Patrick signing a 3-year deal. And like I said, with Sutton, the amount of that guarantee, which is 34.9, so that basically means he's in all likelihood on a 3-year deal. You imagine that last year probably doesn't have a lot of guarantees on it. And then Jerry Jeudy, when you would pay him his next big contract, would be in year 4 for Courtland Sutton / right after Tim Patrick's contract expires. So you can see kind of the long-term planning that's already kind of going into place here. I don't know if Courtland Sutton signs a 3rd contract with Denver. I don't know if Tim Patrick has a contract beyond that, but you can kind of see the chess pieces in place to set up for Jerry Jeudy being the wide receiver 1 in terms of pay. I'm not talking about on-field stuff, talking about contracts in 2025.
Right.
Everything. It's really shrewd long-term planning here, to where when it's time for Jerry Jeudy to get paid, you're going to be able to kind of slide him into the space that is occupied by Patrick and Sutton. It's well done.
And you really did buy low on Sutton here, not just with the price, but with his recent performance. It hasn't been his best 3-week stretch heading into this contract.
No doubt. I mean, It's for 9 targets in 3 games.
And so if you're George Payton, who we know has always loved Courtland Sutton, literally, we've talked about it a million times. Courtland Sutton is the jersey he told his son to get right when he came to Denver. So he's always been a big Courtland Sutton fan. And so for him, he believes in him long term. I'm sure that he, in his mind's eye, says he's not playing at 100% right now.
Right.
So let me buy him now, literally buy the stock low and hold it as it goes up over the years.
Yeah, let him get another year removed from the ACL, because usually it's that next year back when you're back to 100%. Let him keep recovering. I don't know if you would have gotten this deal if, in fact, actually, I'm going to just say it. I know you wouldn't have gotten this kind of deal if he didn't have the ACL.
Oh, definitely.
It's not necessarily a hometown discount. This is a player recovering from injury discount.
Yeah, and you hate that for the player.
Right. But he still got life-changing money.
Totally.
Yeah, so I'm happy for him, and then if he continues doing what he's doing, there'll be a third contract for him that is big, just kind of like Devontae Adams got gets a third big contract. He continues on his trajectory. Maybe it's here, maybe it's somewhere else. There's another huge deal for Courtland Sutton coming on the other side of this.
All right, Mace, we did it successfully. We made it this far without talking quarterbacks, because I didn't want to make their moment. I wanted to make that about them, but of course, everyone's first reaction to all of this is either something along the lines of, okay, this is setting up for a quarterback. You can do this because you have a cost-controlled quarterback coming. Yep. Or 3, just people being mad saying, no, why would you do this when you don't have a quarterback? Which is a little bit short-sighted. But
in both paths, yes.
Right, exactly. So let me ask you, is it more about building a foundation that Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, or heck, even Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins would be interested in playing alongside? Or is it, hey, look, we're going to have a cost-controlled quarterback next year. Why would we, we don't have to exactly penny pinch on our other positions?
Option A is the veteran.
Yes.
You're helping things no matter what, because if you have the young quarterback, if that's eventually the route you go, you've basically said, all right, you're going to have Sutton, Patrick, Judy. You have no excuse.
Right.
And you can easily pay those guys with a cost control with a cost control quarterback. If it's a veteran quarterback, then you're basically saying we're going to give you the weapons, but you're going to have to scrimp somewhere. It's probably going to mean scrimping on defense. That's where you're probably going to kind of have a little bit of roster imbalance. I don't think you're going to go from having one of the highest paid defenses to having one of the highest paid offenses in football. But that's just how you're going to build things in terms of overall team construction. But option A is the veteran, I think.
All right.
Clearly. What do you think?
I'll give you my take.
Okay.
On the other side, just going to first tell you about the DNVR bar. You got to come down here, come hang out. It is such a great time. I will say, Mace, yesterday was my first time all season that I got to watch Sunday football from the couch all day, and I needed that. But before we did that,
you needed to see some of how the rest of the world lives.
Oh, like that Sunday night football game.
I watched Packers Vikings early, and they're the second half. It's just exchanging touchdowns. Cousins and Rodgers playing. Can you top this in a duel of the unvaccinated?
Throwing it up to Justin Jefferson on the third down. Anyways, before that, I had the tailgate, was hanging out at the bar for a little bit. Great crowd down here. All of your friends from Broncos Twitter hanging out, having a good time, having drinks. And you can do that just about any night here at the bar, depending on what team is on. Super excited. It won't be this Thursday because of Thanksgiving, but super excited to hopefully host some Rapids watch parties as we go through the playoffs. So all that, got to come check out the DNVR bar, get you a Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu burger, get you a Breckenridge Brew 22 ounce, and enjoy the atmosphere down here.
Also enjoy the work from Chevalier Mortgage. If you're getting into buying a home, if that's a step that you are ready to take, then Mike and Virginia Chevalier are going to help you out. Chevalier Mortgage's ultimate goal is to take the stress out of buying and refinancing. Look, there's so many issues associated with that. You want somebody that's going to make things easier for you. Some people are going to make things easier. Mike and Chevalier will do that. They give their borrowers options with their full financial picture in mind, and will always put their borrowers first. And with prices going up, it's creating natural equity in your home if you have a home. So chances are you can refinance your mortgage and get some savings. Make this housing bubble work for you. Mike and Virginia Chevalier will tell you how to do that. They also have this going on for DMVR listeners. You go to dmvrmortgage.com and enter to win a free DMVR shirt or a hat of your choice when you sign up. Most importantly, get set up with a free consultation and discuss all your options. That's dnvrmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia Chevalier, they're longtime sponsors and friends of DMVR. And whether you're buying a house, selling a house, or just want to refinance, get things in order, they will find a way to help you out. So check out Chevalier Mortgage and check out dnvrmortgage.com. You can call them directly also at 303-257-6578. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS number 1910631.
And finally, I mentioned Breck Brews down here at the DNVR bar, but you can get them anywhere if you just use that Breck Brew locator online. It'll show you where the nearest beers are to you, and you're going to want to get in on this. I'm staring across the room right now at our mini keg of Christmas ale that we just got in over here. It's a great thing. You want to impress everyone at the Thanksgiving celebration. You come in with the Christmas ale mini keg. People are going to appreciate that. And, of course, then
make it feel like Christmas, even though the temperature is not going to feel like Christmas on Thanksgiving.
By the way, Mace, today, officially, if it does not snow, will be the latest snow ever in Denver history.
So we're going to set new records every day for the next probably couple weeks, because
I'm sure it's nothing, right?
Yeah, there's some precipitation maybe moving through tomorrow, but they're not expecting measurable snow. This is going to persist.
We did get a couple snowflakes at the Buffs game on Saturday.
But it didn't accumulate, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It looked like rain on the ground and it only lasted for about like 2 seconds. But it was kind of cool. Anyways, Breckenridge Brew, whether it's raining, snowing, sleeting, sunny, they've got a beer for you. So check them out, Breckenridge Brewery, and find that nearest beer to you with that Breck Brew locator.
You know, I mean, with the weather, it's probably still strawberry sky season, you know.
It's always strawberry sky season for me, but quite literally, I mean, if you like strawberry sky ultimate porch beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have your Thanksgiving meal outside if you're not going to the Rapids match.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I could get my family in on that, but my mom's having like 20 people over. I don't think she's going to move the whole party to Dick's.
Move the whole party. It actually sounds like a lot of fun. Move the whole party to Dick's.
She did let me go to a Nuggets playoff game on Mother's Day once. I think I used up a few of my Goodwill cards that time.
Was that a few years ago?
Against the Blazers, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Game 7.
I tried on that. I couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
I watched it at a Mother's Day meal at a restaurant. So
I tried. I bargained, and I was just like, let's celebrate Mother's Day one day early, and then I'll go to the game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyways, my take on this in terms of what it means for the Broncos quarterback situation is it has to. I think George Paton looked at it this way. Coming in, you had this great roster, right? Everyone was talking about this roster is ready to win if they just get a quarterback. I think George Paton feels like he was really close to getting Aaron Rodgers. And depending on who you ask, he was. And he is just kicking himself over the fact that he wasn't able to get that done as he watches this team kind of flounder its way through the season. And he's just saying, I need another shot at this. I need another shot at getting this veteran quarterback who comes in here and leads this team to the promised land. And I don't want to miss out on it because we no longer have the weapons that we had.
I think that's the case, but I don't know if it's all about Aaron Rodgers anymore.
No, I don't think so either.
In fact, if I were putting down some money on a veteran, I'd say the first choice is Russell Wilson. But here's the thing. To use your expression, here's the thing. Seattle may well decide to reconstruct their coaching staff around what Russ needs. I mean, it seems like the Pete Carroll era seems like it's coming to a natural conclusion here. It's year 12. They won a Super Bowl. They went to another. had some good times, a lot of wins, but clearly he's not working. What he wants to do in terms of offensive point of emphasis is not working for where the Seahawks need to go. Could Russ say, I want out? Yes. But what if Seattle says everything we do is going to be structured around what you want? Yeah. Even you having a say on the coach. That's the thing that could mess this up here. But Wilson, according to reports, wasn't interested in the Broncos last offseason when there were rumblings about them moving on. Could the Broncos change that with what they've done at receiver? Potentially. I think it probably has more to do with who they hire as head coach if they move on from Vic Fangio. Like if they hire Dan Quinn or Darrell Bevell, that's the tell.
As I've said, I would hire Josh McDaniels all over again if that's what Russell Wilson wants.
I would too. I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, I just want to shoot myself in the mouth for saying that. But if you can get Russ,
you do whatever it takes.
Who probably has another 7 to 10 years potentially in him, you do it in a heartbeat.
How old is he now?
33. Just the way,
really it.
Yeah, the way quarterbacks age nowadays, and he got to the NFL relatively at an older age than a lot of guys do because he had the postgraduate transfer.
Oh, 5 years in college.
Yeah, because he was at NC State, he graduated, he moved on to Wisconsin.
Or maybe he could have just graduated early, but still.
He did. He graduated from NC State. He had kind of the full. I think there was a redshirt year, and there were 3 other years, and then he moved, and then he had the extra year at Wisconsin.
Okay.
So he was an older than average guy going into the draft process. But at the same time, really the injury this year is the only significant injury that he's had.
Yep.
He's taken some hits, yes, but does not appear to be at a point of physical infirmity in any way because of it.
No, and it really does feel like things are just over in Seattle. What was their record last year? I think they were a 10-win team last year.
I believe they were maybe 11 wins because they hosted the Rams in the wild card round. Not that home field advantage meant anything last year.
Right.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they're an 11-win team last year.
Yeah.
And he was over it. What are they're on pace for like 6 wins right now.
Yeah.
Even less, I guess.
And they're all, their game plan, they're just, the game plans the last 2 weeks have just been tepid.
Yeah. And it's just not. It just seems like a very incomplete football team, and that also might be what the decision makers in Seattle are seeing, saying we need some draft picks, because they are very thin in that department as well, because of some trades they've made.
Yeah, they need draft picks, and of course, John Schneider. We know he has kind of a different draft evaluation than most people. The Seahawks draft board probably. If you stacked up every draft board around the league, all 32 teams, the one that would look the most different from the rest of them year in and year out would be Seattle's. And we see that in the picks they make. Like it's Rashad Penny, he should have gone in the 3rd round, right? But that's their MO. But at the same time,
and that's one of the reasons why they're in this debacle.
Right, exactly.
They also got DK though.
I feel like they kind of maybe overthink and they try to be too contrarian. At the same time, even though I can see them just saying, all right, we're just going to get draft picks, we're going to blow it up. Logically, at some point, somebody in that building has to say, Russ could play 8 to 10 more years. Why aren't we doing everything to build around him and make him happy?
They should
if we're going to have a new coach, if we move on from Pete Carroll, why isn't Russ involved in that? Wouldn't Russ be involved in that process? Well, that's the one thing that could save Wilson for Seattle at this point.
All right, let's make it less about Seattle and more about the Broncos. I think Russell Wilson is probably target 1.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers is obviously 2.
I could see Rodgers retiring after this year, though.
Of course.
More so than at the start of the year.
Number 3, potentially Derek Carr.
That's an intriguing one.
Would you rather do that than go after a rookie?
Well, definitely Wilson I'd rather than a rookie.
Definitely Rodgers as well.
Yeah. With Carr and then Kirk Cousins as well.
So that was going to be the 4th one.
That's where you get into a danger zone of saying, are we going to pay elite money for a guy who's just pretty good?
And it's a very fair conversation to have.
And we see even like with the Vikings, there's a ceiling to what they accomplish. I mean, look at the Raiders since Henry Ruggs was removed from the lineup. I mean, their offense just has no dynamic element.
They still haven't won a game without Henry Ruggs, huh?
Yeah.
Since he got to the team.
Every loss they've had they're winless without Henry Ruggs the last 2 years.
It's up to 0-6 now.
Yes. It's a big
problem.
It's crazy when you look at them and say they're well over 500 with him and they're winless without him. I mean, you hate to put it on one player, but clearly, even though he wasn't a leading receiver, he was changing the way he defended them.
100%.
Oh, things were open for Brian Edwards and Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller underneath it. They just aren't there now.
Yep.
And also, their defense is breaking down under the strain. I mean, Joe Mixon was just dicing through those guys yesterday.
Yeah. Derek Carr, I think I can't believe I'm saying this because I used to be a big time Derek Carr hater.
Yeah.
But he's come a long way.
He's really good.
Yes.
But can he elevate you? Like, we know Wilson can elevate.
The question is,
we know Rodgers can elevate. Does Carr have that same ability to elevate those around him?
But also, can he be elevated by those around him with Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, Albert Okwuegbunam?
Well, he'd have the vertical threat in KJ Hamler.
He'd have a lot to work with. That one I think I'd sign off on, depending on the price tag.
Yeah. If it's 35, what if Carr is $35 million a year?
Is he going to be a free agent though?
He's got. I thought he had one more year left on his.
So you got to trade for him.
And let me just look at his contract here real quick. It's great podcasting, by the way, when we're looking at contracts.
It's all right.
When we're looking at contracts here, Derek Carr. He had a 5-year, $125 million contract. He is under contract next year. There's no guarantee. So the Raiders can cut him.
Which they probably won't.
And they probably won't, so it'd have to be a trade. So realistically, are they going to trade him within the division?
Probably
not.
Yeah.
So Carr might make a lot of sense. And by the way, you'd give him a new contract, but that cap number for next year, $19.877 million. I mean, shoot. Teddy Bridgewater, the contract he signed with Carolina originally had a lower per year value than that 1 year number for Derek Carr.
Again, if he could make it happen, I don't know if they're like, if he forces his way out, he doesn't strike me as a guy who would do that. But either way, that's where I probably end it though. I wouldn't do it for Kirk Cousins.
I wouldn't either. And honestly, that's kind of the one that scares me a little bit because George Payton does have familiarity with him. Of course, at the same time, he has familiarity, but what does he think? What does Rick Spielman think of the fact that he chose not to get the jab this summer? I mean, certainly we know Mike Zimmer was really frustrated.
Yeah, for sure.
With that. Did that frustration reflect in what Rick Spielman felt? And if that's the case, I'd imagine that George Payton, probably hearing about it secondhand from his guys in Minnesota, probably would have felt as they did. I
mean, those types of things definitely matter. I will say, let me ask you this. Where would Kirk Cousins fall on a scale of Broncos quarterbacks? Like,
all time?
All time.
Definitely, obviously, below Manning and Elway.
Manning, Elway, Plummer, and Morton.
Yeah, I mean, Morton's...
Those two are interchangeable.
Morton's definitely your 3.
Okay.
Because of what the team accomplished as well. And also, if you look back at his 77 and 81 seasons and adjust them for era, they're among the best the Broncos have had, especially that 81 campaign where they were cruising along toward division title before they choked against Chicago.
Okay, so there's your top 3.
Yes.
He's ahead of Kirk Cousins for sure.
Morton is?
Yes.
Yes, I'd say so. The thing that Morton had that Cousins doesn't have, Morton was an elevator, as in he made people better around him. And I've talked to so many of the guys on the 77 team over the years that have said that Craig Morton walking in was the piece that made us all better.
There you go.
And that's the difference between a Morton and a Cousins, and it's why I wouldn't say Cousins is at best 4th.
So I would put him at 5th.
Because you put him behind Jake?
I'd put him behind Jake.
That's fair.
But it's kind of funny that we would be willing to just say no thanks. Like, Are we drawing the line at Jake Plummer? Like you got to do a little better than Jake Plummer.
We're also viewing it financially though, because one
Totally.
of the reasons why there's questions about him coming back in Minnesota is that cap number right now for the Vikings is $45 million. $10 million of it is guaranteed. The rest, or it's all guaranteed. $10 million of it is on the bonus. So if they traded him, you would be looking at a $35 million cap number for next year. And then if you extend him, what beyond that? So that, to me, if you're talking about Kirk Cousins, it's Kirk Cousins versus
plus his contract,
and his contract versus Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral at cost control drink.
Yeah,
And that's where I think you
draw the line.
You draw the line. And Matt Ryan's another interesting potential possibility as well. But you shook your head. That tells me you think he's washed.
I mean, he got shut out last time he was on the field.
Recency bias, but yes.
I know. I'm just saying, like, good quarterbacks that you want to bring in here don't get shut out.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah, we got a little super chat here from Alaska Preston. He says, Cousins over Carr. Cousins has had some good years. Cousins has had some good years.
He is.
But, I mean,
he's the ultimate statistical accomplishment guy.
Kirk Cousins essentially getting paid twice as much what you would be paying Derek Carr next year if you got that contract.
I'd rather have Carr. And frankly, I mean, I look at their best seasons, and I would put Carr's 16 season in particular, where he was a legit MVP candidate, over anything that Cousins accomplished.
I just want to say, as we're talking about, quote unquote retread quarterbacks here, not as many people calling me crazy for thinking that Carson Wentz wasn't the worst idea.
Coaching and environment matters.
Totally.
I'm not. I don't think Carson Wentz is doing that with anybody but Frank Reich.
It's
those two.
I don't want to limit them that much, but those two are two peas in a pod.
Yeah, they're peanut butter and jelly together. Those two,
and I love it. I think it's great.
It also helps that you've got right now
Jonathan Taylor.
At this moment today, the best active running back in the NFL is Jonathan Taylor, and that's why I was scared for the Chiefs taking him in 2020, and I was relieved when they took Edwards-Helaire. Taylor's the guy they should have picked.
Oh yeah,
complete back.
Oh yeah, that would have been like a 1-for-1. It would have been an upgrade, but they lost Kareem Hunt, and that hurt the balance of their offense.
Yeah,
and they would have been right back there.
Yeah, there's literally nothing that Taylor doesn't do well.
He's awesome
at this point.
Even his press conferences are good.
Yeah, I actually, and I was just in Wisconsin this weekend. He's all over commercials there.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's a pitch man. Like you see him for for UW Credit Union. There are billboards of Jonathan Taylor around Madison, Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
Like he's the man. He's become the man there.
That's awesome.
Maybe the dream scenario is, I guess, you trade for Jonathan Taylor and you trade for Russell Wilson and you just.
I don't think they're trading Jonathan Taylor.
They're not trading Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, he's terrific. Yeah.
Okay, so we draw the line at Derek Carr, and then you move on to the draft, which, if you didn't listen to Thursday's episode of the podcast, Henry gave us a really great breakdown of the quarterbacks in this class.
Who does Henry like the best?
He has Carson Strong as his number one.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on board with Strong. I feel like it's going to take him a little bit too long to develop because there's no running threat from him. And when you can only defend the arm, it makes it easier for defenses to kind of game plan you early on.
And of course, the counter to that now is going to be, well, look at Mac Jones. He's not Mac Jones.
And Mac Jones is in the perfect system with the perfect coaching.
Totally, and that's what I mean.
Yeah, you can't assume that you're going to have that. You have to assume flaws.
Right.
So,
I will say, when I watch him play and I see throws, and I said this to Henry, I say, oh, those are NFL throws.
He does. Yeah, he made some. I watched him against
more than anyone
Cal earlier this year. He had some nice throws on Friday. He also, let's face it,
very inconsistent.
Very inconsistent when he didn't have the biggest one that he would have needed there at the end on that when they went into 2-point conversion tiebreak third overtime mode.
I didn't catch that game.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was awesome.
It was if not for Chargers Steelers, I think that was kind of the game of the weekend, at least in the games that I watched.
Wow,
of football.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun on Friday night.
Most people would not agree with me, but the game of the weekend for me, Buffs over Washington. A terrible football game for all who didn't have a rooting interest in Colorado.
Yeah, but in college football, there's no harm in winning a meaningless late season game.
No, well,
that is one good thing about college football compared to the NFL. If you're out of it and you win in the NFL at the end of the season, you're
it's
like,
a bad thing, yeah.
Right? We lost draft position. In college football, who cares? You try to win every game.
Yeah,
good for the Buffs.
it was a really bad.
Who was
football
coaching
game.
UW this weekend?
Don't even know.
Okay, I don't even know. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know who their interim coach is right now.
Yeah. But UW fumbles on the goal line and gets taken back the other way. That gives the Buffs a touchdown. Then they fumble again inside their own 10.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really have any business winning the football game, but we won. That's all that matters.
By the way, I did not see any plays from that game. Partially, it was a Pac-12 network game, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't going to get that where I was.
So, anyways, back to drafted.
Sorry, we're hijacking this.
Back to drafting quarterbacks real quick.
Yeah.
There's 3 veterans that I would really look into, and then I would turn to the draft. But again, it's a scary place to be because there's definitely not a sure thing in this draft. And the flip side of that is the Broncos wouldn't, if there was a sure thing, the Broncos wouldn't be in a position to take him.
Right.
This is one.
But they are in position to trade up for him with
maybe
the assets they've accumulated.
But I'm saying if there was a
Right.
Trevor Lawrence in this draft, the Broncos would have no shot.
Right.
But there isn't. And if you're the Broncos, that could be a good thing for you because maybe the guy that you think is the guy isn't a consensus the guy. And he falls to you at 10, where the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. Or, a little earlier than that, where you were able to get Deshaun Watson. Like, there's options here of if you love a guy, you might be able to kind of hide your love for him and pounce just at the right time, just like, again, happened with Kansas City, and everyone would say, well, there's no Mahomes. There probably isn't. But no one thought there was a Mahomes in the Mahomes draft, or he would have been drafted number 1 overall.
Let's live in a hypothetical where they decide that Kenny Pickett of Pitt is their guy. Mm-hmm. I think we can agree kind of the primary concern is the small hands, but it's a good quarterback.
It just never stops being funny to me. I'm just saying, like,
I know what you're getting at.
No, I'm not getting at anything other than the fact that we talk about the size of dudes' hands.
Yeah, but this comes up every year.
Every year
with quarterbacks. I mean,
Joey Burrow's doing all right.
Yeah, 9 inches is the baseline, but he doesn't even hit that baseline unless he does the Brandon Allen hand massage exercises that he talked about years ago to try to add. I mean, it's like Michael Jordan said he used to hang from a chin-up bar.
To try and stretch his body
and
up.
Be taller because he saw it on the Brady Bunch once. So whatever you can do. But let's say Kenny Pickett is the guy. There are teams that will cross Kenny Pickett off their list because of hand size. Maybe even as much as a third of the league won't have him on their board because he doesn't meet the hand size threshold, the baseline threshold. So if he's the guy you love, he might be there at 12 or 13. And then you go ahead and get him.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I would feel more comfortable with Kenny Pickett for the next 5 years than Kirk Cousins on an ungodly cap number.
And that's the interesting part about this. And the final thing I want to say about this is regardless of which of these paths you go down, you still end up liking what you did with Sutton and Patrick.
Yes.
Because if a young quarterback comes in and that's what he gets to look at, it's going to be worlds different, no matter who you get. Worlds different than what they were throwing to in college.
100%. And with these receivers who by that point, let's say you draft a guy. So by the time you get that draft quarterback in, you're going to have 2 fifth-year receivers on long-term deals, a third-year receiver in Jerry Jeudy who has at least 3 more years of team control, and then KJ Hamler as a chess piece. I don't think you can rely on KJ Hamler as a primary threat anymore.
No,
that's just not the direction he's going in. But a chess piece to give you some more speed. We haven't even talked about what you have at tight end, the potential that is still there. if you have a young quarterback, then kind of the final piece of that is maybe you take the savings there and put a little more in the offensive line, and you're literally saying, all right, you're going to have a stud running back behind you, Javonte Williams. You're going to have all these pass catchers and a fortified offensive line. Kid, if you fail, it's on you.
Yeah.
You have all these
you have
pieces.
a much better offensive coordinator.
Yes. But mostly it's on you if you fail.
And again, that's another fun thing to think about is if, the Broncos were to go chase an offensive-minded head coach, the weapons that they get to come in and work with as long as they can get something figured out at the quarterback position. And that is the only downside of this. If you don't get this figured out in one way or another, then you're paying a lot of money to guys who are playing a dependent position that aren't being used properly.
Yeah, and they're going to get frustrated.
Absolutely.
As time goes on. And we've seen that happen here. It's one of the reasons why the last time you had two receivers on big contracts, when you had Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, how their frustration built over the years was because they didn't have quality at the trigger.
Yep. And you ended up trading both of them.
Right.
And obviously Demaryius was a lot more amicable than Emmanuel, who kind of forced his way out. But it's the one thing you have to keep in mind here. If you don't figure that out, it's going to be a waste of money.
Right.
And again,
they're not doing this without a plan at quarterback, but I think the plan is it's very much like, well, we have option A and option B, option C. And I think George Payton is at a point where he is probably comfortable with any of option A, which maybe you say it's Russell Wilson, option B, a Rodgers or a Carr, option C being a rookie. I think we may be at a point where George Payton's already comfortable with any of those three paths and working around that.
Again, you are giving that rookie the best chance to succeed by giving them these guys.
Right.
Now, if the rookie fails, again, you're going to be bummed that you paid all this money to these guys because it's probably going to take both of those contracts to figure out if that rookie can play.
Yeah.
And so you got to hit. I mean, bottom line, everything in the NFL comes down to that last question: can you hit at your quarterback?
If you can't get Russell Wilson, would you be more comfortable with a young guy?
No, I want Wilson, Rodgers,
okay. All right,
Carr, young guy.
Just to kind of square that out. All right, I know you said that earlier.
Yeah,
but just more and more, if they can't get Wilson, I think I'd be okay with a young guy and riding with him. Part of the big cap number for a guy who's just pretty good is something that's crippled a lot of teams over the years in terms of your overall planning. And we've seen how for a lot of teams, the best window to contend for and win a title is first contract.
Yeah.
Before that quarterback gets expensive. So you start looking at all the pieces kind of falling into place here and I'm thinking, now they just have to get the right young quarterback, but if they did, it might actually give them the best shot to win.
It's just...
But are any of these guys next year capable of being the guy in that way? That's the concern. Look, all of these guys have fatal flaws. Mm-hmm. Like there's like Carson Strong, you can point to the fact that he has no running threat, so defenses don't have to play him honest early, and that means he's not going to see the gaps in coverage that a more dual threat quarterback might see. You've got Sam Howell, NFL quality arm, NFL quality leader,
NFL quality running ability.
Yes, but takes a lot of sacks. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that a function of the line in front of him, or is that or has he got some Christian Hackenberg-like issues there?
Oh God.
Malik Willis, probably a steep learning curve going from the Hugh Freeze offense at Liberty to what he's going to face in the NFL. Kenny Pickett, I mean, he had okay years and then one great year, and then of course the hand size. Who is the real Kenny Pickett? The guy that we're seeing ball out for Pitt this year, or the guy that we saw in the last few years? I mean, that's the thing that kind of gets you, is like all of these guys have a flaw that could sink them.
Yeah.
Can you correct it?
Yes. So it's an important question.
Yeah.
We're going to get to some more important questions from the listeners here in a second, but first, an answer to your beef needs this holiday season, forget the turkey. No one actually likes it that much. Go with Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef. I promise you, if that is what you cook at your Thanksgiving, 0 people will complain about it. If that's what you cook at your Christmas, people will be praising you. Not only is it great to cook for holidays, it's great as a gift for holidays. You can send Hassel Cattle Company straight to someone's door. Comes in a nice, pretty box. It's all packed in there, frozen, ready for you to go. It's delicious. We have the ultimate stamp of approval on it, but that's what we serve here at the DNVR bar. If you order a burger, you get a Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu burger. There's just so much great stuff over there, including their sausages, their beef bacon. I could go on and on and on. It is a fantastic burger. It's a fantastic steak. It is incredible beef. So hit up our friends over at Hassel Cattle Company. And you can get a holiday special right now with the code DNVR to get 15% off. Sorry, DNVR15 to get 15% off. And then if you go over $200 on your order, you're going to get free shipping from our friends over at Hassel Cattle Company. Get in on it, HASSELL, cattlecompany.com.
You know what else is fantastic is getting relief from aches and pains, right?
Yes, that is fantastic.
You've had headaches. Maybe you got some joint pain. Maybe you got a hamstring injury. And you know what? You can sometimes find that CBD will help you get rid of those aches and pains. And one great way to get CBD is through our friends over at Strava Craft Coffee. Maybe you've got migraines, cluster headaches. CBD can sometimes help you out with that. So give it a shot and use the code DNVR25 at Strava Craft Coffee to get 25% off. That's 25% off your entire order at Strava Craft Coffee when you use the code DNVR25 at checkout and get some of that CBD infused coffee. If you want to just try it once before you get in on ordering it from Strava Craft Coffee, from StravaCoffee.com, then come on down to the DNVR bar, have some of the Strava cold brew on tap. But if not, if you just want to order at home, go to StravaCraftCoffee.com. Use the code DNVR25 at checkout for 25% off. You can also subscribe. If you try it, you like it, you say, I want more, this is making me feel good, then subscribe, and you'll never have to buy coffee in the store again. It comes in K-Cup, comes whole bean, ground, and it'll get delivered to you every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks, whatever you prefer, right there on your doorstep. And if you subscribe, you're going to get 20% off for life. So give it a shot once. DNVR25 is the code to get 25% off. If you like it and you want more of it, subscribe, and you're going to get 20% off StravaCraftCoffee.com for life. So check it out at StravaCraftCoffee.com.
I had a big weekend at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Positive weekend, I hope.
Yes, a very positive weekend.
That puts you ahead of a lot of people that got hosed on some bets this weekend.
Is that true? Okay.
Well, I mean, look at let's say that you
a lot of
you thought
favorites
you had a
lost.
sure thing with Titans over Texans.
Oh. Everyone is a fraud. That's
Yeah.
what I've come to learn. Every team is fraudulent. And it seems like that should create for a great postseason, but the cream is just going to rise to the top at the end.
I mean, even the Vikings and Chargers found ways yesterday to win.
Yep.
Despite their
Man,
trends.
I thought the Chargers were going to blow it. That would have been so epic. Anyways, DraftKings Sportsbook, I had a Buffs money line. I went heavy on that. That was a nice 3-1. I put a nice little parlay together in the afternoon games yesterday. It was a good day. And you can have a great day over at DraftKings Sportsbook too. You can have a great night tonight because all you got to do is bet $1 on the game tonight. And if a single point is scored, you're going to get $100 in free bets. I guarantee, I've done this before, $1 million of my own dollars. If tonight's game ends in a 0-0 tie and you put your $1 at DraftKings Sportsbook on that, I will give you 1,000,000 times your money. It's not happening. It's not ending in a 0-0 tie tonight. Just not going to happen. Anyways, get over to DraftKings, get in on that $1 to get $100 in free bets, and you can also get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when you use that code DNVR. But to get in on that free bet, $1 for 100 in free bets, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details, and if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, Mace, let's get into the questions from the listeners here. Do you have the first one there?
Yeah, I'm queuing it up here right now. It's
Okay. Well, let's get to the super chats.
We have super
first.
chats, yes. Okay.
All right, let's get to the super chats.
Oh,
First
wow.
one comes in from Richard Summers. I haven't gotten around to looking at Pickett yet. What are his strengths?
Good anticipatory throws, good command of the offense. He doesn't have a cannon, but his arm is fine. It's NFL quality, and I mean really Also absorbs a scheme very well. He's going to score very high at the whiteboard. I think actually the thing that Pickett and Sam Howell may distinguish themselves at when they get to the pre-draft process is at the whiteboard when they interview with teams. I mean, really, like the two things that you have to question are A, the hand size, but B, why the big jump from this year, and who is the real Kenny Pickett? Is it the guy that we saw this year in his 5th year, or the guy that played for Pitt the previous years? If the real Kenny Pickett is what we've seen this year, you're going to get a good quarterback at the next level.
I honestly see a Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr tier quarterback in Kenny Pickett. That's not a bad thing. If you can draft that guy and get him cost control, you'd love that.
But then when you pay him after 5 years, that's the problem.
And that's something you always have to think about is if you draft this guy and he hits but not at the top.
But Broncos country has been in the desert for so long.
Oh, yeah.
That if you had that guy at cost control for 5 years, we'll figure out the rest later. The other thing is this. If he's at that level in cost control and you've invested wisely in the rest of the roster, you can win a Super Bowl with that.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, Atlanta, not cost control, but they had Matt Ryan. And they got a great year out of him, and they almost won a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan.
Yep.
And really should have, but anyway.
Anyways, all right, next super chat here from James. If Denver signs a top offensive head coach, I do believe you provide Drew Lock one more chance to make a difference in coaching and play. It's coaching and play calling. I think the organization has made their decision on Drew.
I think they have as well. And the other thing that comes into play is unless he's really spectacular, like MVP level, you'd be potentially paying too much for him. You only have 1 year of cost control left on him. That's where not having him as a first-round pick comes into play. I wish they had traded back up in round 1 and taken Drew Lock. The reason being you would have effectively 2 years to figure it out with him.
Well, and you would have committed more to him.
Yeah.
If you drafted him in the first round, Teddy Bridgewater's not here.
Even
right
at 32. Yeah. But I do think they've made up their mind on Drew Lock.
I really do.
Yeah.
And the fact that they won't even really, at least according to Vic, they haven't even considered playing him yet, tells you not only all you need to know about that, but all you need to know about how they really felt about the quarterback competition. If they thought it was neck and neck throughout the entirety of training camp, you would have at least entertained the idea of playing him at this point.
Right. And if George Payton wanted to see Drew Lock play, he could have stepped in at any point and said, I think that Drew should be playing it.
And it could happen.
Yeah.
I think it would be like a mathematical elimination type of thing.
Right, but why not have it happen for the Cleveland game when Teddy is truly hurt? Could barely move that week.
It was
that was the
telling.
moment. That was the moment that you said if they're as close as you said they were, that was the ideal moment to play Drew Lock. Cooper Rush isn't close to Dak Prescott, but when Dak Prescott was really struggling, the Cowboys didn't hesitate to put Cooper Rush in there.
A lot of that also has to do with them wanting to protect Dak. I don't know if the Broncos care about Teddy Bridgewater all that much.
That's fair, but at the same time, that was a game that they won to their credit, but you put an important game at risk because you wanted to play. You said we would want to make sure that our guy is healthy. So again, if Bridgewater and Locke were close, then Locke at 100% would be better than Bridgewater at 60%, right?
The funny thing is,
if they were that close,
what if Drew comes in and plays the last 5 games of this season and plays like he did in the last 5 games of his rookie season, or better?
Is it false positive time though?
I know. It's
Drew
you're
might
putting yourself in a weird position.
I know.
Even if you do play him at the end of the season,
right? Because then,
I guess you can help with trade.
Is
value.
that really him or is it not him? The other thing is they also know more about what's going on behind the scenes, and maybe they've seen things behind the scenes where they say, "Okay, we're moving on."
I'll just say I find it very. I think they're out on Drew.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the comments here from the listeners. You can, of course, leave your comments every single day on thednvr.com if you're a member over there. This first one comes in from Bumpy Buffalo. Hey, guys, in response to my fantasy team yesterday, I actually didn't go RB 1, 2, 3. I chose 4th of 8 in a snake draft. That makes sense why he has such a stacked team. Only an 8-team fantasy league here. First 3 picks were McCaffrey, Kelsey, and Kamara, so I lucked into Henry. My next pick was Jonathan Taylor, as Mahomes, Gronk, and Hopkins all went second round. I then grabbed Cup and got lucky with many Broncos fans going for Melvin, Javonte, and Judy instead. I grabbed Dak in the 4th, Mixon in the 5th, and just snagged whoever was left at that point. I have an 8-2 record with my most crowning achievement being winning a game by 15 while starting Dak in my lineup while he sat for Cooper Rush. Just a lucky year for me. I'm sure he won yesterday, too, if he has Jonathan Taylor.
You know, most fantasy leagues will never do that, but I was in one where if you got a quarterback, you got their backup as well.
I kind of like that. I've always thought you could call it like insurance.
Right, and because the theory was every NFL team has a backup quarterback to try to get by for a week. So if you have a Dak Prescott, why don't you just automatically get Cooper Rush and get whatever the quarterback position produces for that team?
Yeah, I guess where it would be confusing is like if there's a quarterback competition while you're drafting.
Yeah.
You just get both, I guess.
But that I don't know. To me, that's more palatable. But hey, good for you, Bumpy Buffalo, that you got lucky on that one. Lou Drock, guys, just saw the Sutton news. So happy. My question for you. We're handing out the bags to Patrick and Sutton. Do you think Peyton is thinking cost-controlled rookie QB or paying $40 million a year to Rodgers or Watson still likely? Cheers, Troy. Not Watson.
We haven't even brought up Watson. I mean, there's always a chance that he gets that all figured out and it throws a huge wrench in the conversations. I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, he is not on the Broncos' radar until all that is cleared up.
Right.
As it should make that clear.
As it should be.
And there are some teams that Watson is on their radar already. Even with that, the Broncos aren't among those.
And
teams.
it should tell you about what the Texans think is going to happen, that they wouldn't put clauses in the trade with Miami that's essentially said, like, if he never plays again, it reverses the trade.
Yeah.
Which tells you that they don't think he's playing.
Yeah.
Or they're just, I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't have made that deal if you knew or you didn't know.
Or maybe they think that if it's cleared up that they'll get more.
And
more teams will enter the chat. And they probably wouldn't. More teams will. And the Broncos, if it's all cleared up, the Broncos will certainly inquire. But Watson has to want to come to Denver. There's no indication that he wants to come to Denver, although you have given him the receivers. So
I think at this point he'll take whatever job he can get if he can get a job in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, if he's cleared, that changes everything. But as for like a cap space question, the Broncos are in a position still to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, because I believe Over the Cap going into today had them at over $70 million projected cap space for next year. So let's assume that the cap figures for Patrick and Sutton are their average annual value. That would be about $26.5 million. They would still be looking at north of $44 million of cap space. And that's before any other moves come into play. So there is plenty of room to get whatever quarterback they want. It might mean the end of their shopping for the most part, but they can go get the quarterback.
They can. And you always have to remember it's not $30 million straight off the cap.
Right.
You can move things around and
you can give Courtland Sutton next year, like his cap number next year could be $8 million.
Right.
And now then you've got a bigger hit beyond that, but that's just part of the planning that you're going to have.
Next one from Def Woo. Haven't heard that phrase in a while. Thank you, George Payton, for the Monday morning good news. I can't remember the last time anything happened on a Monday. What a bye week.
Yeah.
Now we just need to find a QB to get them the ball for the next 4 years. I'm out of hope for this season, but Payton's decision gives me hope that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. And Zach said this on Twitter today, and I really agree. He's getting this stuff done early. I love seeing a GM be ahead of the clock.
Rather than wait for the cost to go up.
And just getting deals done at the 11th hour. I don't like that.
I mean, think of it like buying airline tickets, right? Do you ever really save money by waiting when you know you're making a trip?
Never. And I've always thought, like, you know, I've been in the airport, missed a flight. There's another flight that leaves in an hour.
Yeah.
I've always thought, like, how did the price of tickets not just drop in the last hour? Because it's either going to be empty or you're going to get like $100 from me. I've never understood why they do that, but maybe they don't want to encourage people to wait.
Yeah.
Anyways, you're right. You never save money by waiting. Unless we're talking about like going to a sporting event.
Yeah, which she might. By the way, last night, not knowing that the Courtland Sutton thing was coming, I actually went on Ticketmaster to look and see how many available tickets there were on the market.
For Broncos Chargers this
Broncos Chargers, 8,613.
Yikes.
That means literally 11.3% of the stadium is available on the secondary market.
And
on the market.
Man, I think if anyone watched Sunday Night Football last night,
Yeah.
they just got more down in the dumps about what might happen. Now, again, this is the AFC West, and they are the Chargers, and it is a home game. Anything can happen. But if you watched Justin Herbert, at times, not the whole game, but at times look indefensible by the Steelers defense, you probably weren't thinking like, oh, man, I got to get tickets to go watch the Broncos take on this guy.
The way to defend him, the best chance you have is by batting down the pass at the line of scrimmage.
Good thing the Broncos are good at that.
Right. And so the way the Broncos might get a takeaway is Draymond Jones or Shelby Harris getting their hands up in the air and deflecting a pass.
Yep.
That's the best shot. But, yeah, you looked at that game.
He ran for nearly 100 yards.
Yeah. And that's part of what makes him so tough to defend. Not only does he have the arm, but you have to account for the fact that he can rip off a 40-yard run.
Yeah,
he literally
frustrating.
won. I mean, last game in college was the Rose Bowl against Wisconsin. Literally won MVP with his legs. Mm-hmm. He had a bad game throwing the ball.
And that's the Josh Allen effect, right?
Yeah.
Except he came in more advanced than Josh Allen.
And defenses, I mean, I can just talking with when Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib were here, I would ask them about defending a running quarterback. All of them said it was harder because you had to think about two things rather than one. And you had to have your eyes in two different places.
You really can't play true man coverage and get everyone turning away from the quarterback.
Exactly, and it does make things easier for that young quarterback when he goes back to throw if the defense is playing to potentially stop the run.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Like, unless you get Carson Strong in a perfect scheme, I think it's going to be tougher for him early. Whereas, someone like Sam Howell and Malik Willis, these guys can take off and beat you, and even Pickett has some running ability as well.
Yeah,
it's what you have to have. And Matt Corral can certainly run the ball well.
What's so crazy about like a conversation like this to me is that George Payton has a plan. He clearly has a plan, and we just don't know what it is.
I'm not even sure most people in the building know what it is.
I'm cool with that. As long as there's a plan, I'm cool with it.
I would imagine that maybe nobody in the building knows what it is.
Interesting. He doesn't strike me as that secretive.
It's kind of just keeping your true intent just to a minimum number of people, and I would say right now that does not include anybody in the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, and I'll say this: if you start saying things in the building, like we're gonna go get Russell Wilson, that will get out, and it will become a common conversation where we could be having, we knew they wanted Aaron Rodgers this offseason.
Yeah.
That became a conversation every day. And it was a huge letdown when they didn't get Aaron Rodgers. So, it's like if we started saying, like, we're going to hire Mina Kimes, and then we didn't hire her, like, people around here are going to be disappointed.
Yes.
So it's smart, in my opinion, to have your sights set really high, but don't start setting that as the expectation. Because if, let's say, you end up getting Derek Carr, to me, that's something that should be really exciting for the fan base. Now, if you said Russell Wilson and got Derek Carr, that's a letdown for the fan base.
Right.
So it's kind of smart to say, hey, let's aim for the moon, but let's not let this sort of start to matriculate around. And in my opinion, it might have already matriculated a little bit too much if that actually is their plan, because I've heard plenty of rumors that involve Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and if you're George Payton, let's make sure that whatever the situation forces upon us, that we have a plan that we believe in.
Right.
And that's why you see him out and about watching Howell and Pickett and Willis and Corral. And I'm sure he's going to see more of those quarterbacks. I'm sure he's going to go see Carson Strong in person. I'm sure he'll find a way to go catch Desmond Ridder in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he may go see those guys again. He'll see him at the Senior Bowl as well, at least some of them. So he will get multiple looks at these guys. But again, it's all about having multiple options. You don't want to suicide for one. Like when you applied for college, if you suicide and went for one school, that's not George Payton. He's going to have 2 or 3 different plans that he's comfortable with.
Are all of these guys going to be at the Senior Bowl?
Not all of them, because not all of them are
Seniors?
graduates and seniors. Like
I don't think Sam Howell can be there.
It's a bummer.
But I believe Malik Willis can be. Kenny Pickett can be.
Desmond Ridder?
Desmond Ridder can be.
Man, that's gonna be
It's gonna be a big
good
week.
one.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a big week down
It's
there.
gonna be a good one. Might have to get back on my Senior Bowl
I
attending
think
ways.
we may need to get the whole crew down there.
That would be fun. That would
Yes.
be really fun. Maybe. All right, that actually wraps it up for the questions today. We'll have plenty more on the website as it relates to these two guys. We'll, of course, be discussing this throughout the week, so stay tuned with us. Of course, if you liked the show, hit us with a thumbs up on YouTube. We always appreciate that. And also, a reminder about our presenting sponsor, MSU Denver Online, the best place to get an online education. Rigorous and affordable online classes taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. It's msudenver.edu/online where you can go to scope out all they have to offer. 750 total classes, 45 plus online and hybrid programs. Something for everyone over there at MSU Denver. Mace, this was a great discussion.
Likewise.
A good day in Broncos country as Courtland Sutton locked up for the foreseeable future. And George Paton's making moves, and we like to see that.
Who's the biggest winner, George Paton or Courtland Sutton or Tim Patrick?
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
They're all winners today.
Yes, exactly. But I think George Paton could end up being the biggest winner out of this, buying low on a stock that he really believes in.
Yep.
All right, that wraps it up for us. We will catch you guys tomorrow on the DNVR Broncos podcast.